JaytechD wants to know what events are represented on the media badges behind us, and what is my favorite. Honestly, when I worked at the Star Telegram, I had the opportunity, especially with them building Jerry World there and bringing so many events, I had the opportunity to cover a lot of different things. And I gave away all my media credentials originally, which drove my wife crazy because I didn't care. But I had friends who were fans of all different teams and everything, so I just gave them away. And so she made this bulletin board for me and told me to start throwing them up there instead of getting rid of them. I'd say my favorites are probably, I have a couple of Dallas Mavericks season passes, which I got to cover them and like a lot of the best, NBA teams. That was a lot of fun. The Cowboy season passes would probably be my favorite, just because it was kind of a rival type thing in your career to get to cover your favorite sports team. It was really hard to try and play it off, like I didn't care, to be honest. The Red River Shootout was pretty cool. UT and OU in 2012 when OU beat up UT pretty bad. And of course all the Tech stuff was great, and the high school stuff, got to cover all the state championships. The NCAA regional, not this past one, but the one before, that was pretty cool with Florida Gulf Coast. So I'd have to say the Cowboys season passes, though, were pretty sweet. What's all this talking about me? What's the favorite event you've ever covered, Joe?
Well, I'm not big time quite like you, Jared, but no, I mean, boring as it may sound to some people, I really, really love covering Tech basketball games. And there's a huge difference covering basketball versus college football. Oh, yeah. The atmosphere is totally different. You're down there on the floor, you're in the mix, there's chaos and turmoil, especially when the game is great. Yeah. And you get to see the speed and the quickness and everything just up close and personal. It's really, really cool. And when you're in the press box at a football game, it's like a morgue in there.
Yeah, it is.
And it's way, way up there, and you can't say anything. You can't move a muscle. They'll send the goons in to throw you out if you cheer for anybody or anything like that. So you leave with a hernia every night, You have to get an operation 6 times a year. That's no good at all. But basketball games, they can't really police that quite so much. You can pump your fist occasionally or let out a little cheer, and nobody's going to bust you. So,
I had to rein you in a couple of times this last basketball season where you were pretty much jumping up cheers like, Joe, come on, they can see us, And but if I'm being real here, last year against Oklahoma State, I elbowed the hell out of ESPN. You may have seen it, I don't know. ESPN writer Jake Trotter. He predicted that Tech was going to intercept a pass, and then the next play it happened. So it blew my mind, and I elbowed him pretty hard. It probably would have got a foul, in a basketball game. So that's good stuff. All right. West Texas Raider 3 wants us to try and predict the 3 next commits. This is always really hard. There are some that I thought were coming already with this class. Obviously Stidham. Fajoko's another one I thought was a good chance. But then Jonathan Giles, I think maybe I'd heard that about that guy one time before he committed, even though he's a really good player. He's a productive player. So here's what I'm going to say here. I'm going to say Salati Khalil Houghton from Waco Midway, who recently visited for the second time. He came on junior day, and he came a week or so ago. Alyssa wrote a really good story, one of our writers, about that, and where he said Tech moved way up his list after this last visit. He's also expected to decide relatively soon. There are a lot of people in the mix for his services. Baylor, Duke is a team he really likes. So, Tech has a good shot, but I'm not saying for sure, they're the leader. But I can see it happening. Jalen Bates, Louisiana defensive end. This guy, I've written a couple times about him, interviewed him a couple times. He would be a star for Tech, in my opinion. And he loves the Tech coaching staff. He loves Kevin Curtis. He loves Coach Smith. He loves a lot of the coaching staff. And they were early in his recruitment. He's since picked up, he's another guy during the camps that's just tore it up. Picked up several offers, including Texas A&M. But he told me recently that Tech's always going to be high on his list. He's not going to commit until September, So, but he may not be one of the next three, but maybe one of the next 3 or 4. I could see him choosing Texas Tech. As for the third one, I'm just going to say Tyron Johnson. Even though he's not expected to commit necessarily anytime soon, Fehoko is another guy who said he was going to wait until longer, but had Tech high up there for a long time and then said, forget it. So I could see Tyron Johnson maybe go ahead and pulling the trigger relatively soon with Texas Tech. And I just wanted to make y'all really happy with that. So, all right, Joe, Motor City Titans fan, wants to know who we think will win the Big 12 in football and where will Tech finish.
Well, as I sort of said in an earlier question, I think it's pretty much Oklahoma. Yeah. I'd be pretty surprised if anybody else won it. Although, it's kind of a wild league. Who knows? Yeah. Something could happen. But I think Oklahoma is definitely the favorite, and I go along with that consensus. As far as where Tech slots in, I think at some point earlier I predicted Tech to finish third. Hey, that's an optimistic take on it. I think you could very easily say Tech finishes 5th or 6th, but I think that maybe they can pull through a little bit this year. I'm gonna go ahead and stick with it and say 3rd.
Yeah, I like that. I like OU. Now Travis Knight, he could lose his mind in a bad way. He had that one great game and he showed some promise, but we'll see if it translates. Baylor has obviously some players coming back, so we'll see. But I think OU, you definitely have to go with. And as far as Tech, I'm not quite as optimistic as you. I'm going to say 4th, though I could easily see it 5th, them finishing 5th as well, especially having to go to Kansas State. Because I see them and Kansas State being pretty close. They're different teams, of course, but I can see them being close as far as where they are. Right. But having to go to Kansas State might move them to 5th. Yes. And then Motor City Titans fan wants us to do the same for basketball. To me, this is easy. As far as who's going to win the Big 12, and then, but I don't know about as far as where Tech will finish in basketball this year.
Yeah. Well, I assume you mean it's easy because Texas is that who? No, not okay. No. Well, now Kansas.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's okay because let me explain myself because
I get it. I know where you're going with this.
It's the thing is. Texas has everybody coming back, everybody, and then they add Miles Turner,
which I've covered.
The big guy.
He's the real deal.
Shoot, you look at it on paper and you say, well, yeah, Texas is a slam dunk. Yep. But the thing is, when is the last time Kansas has not won the Big 12 title? I don't remember.
10 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, they've won most of those championships when they weren't returning anybody. Yeah. It's just the talent that they get in there is just so incredible, and they bring in a new batch and it recruits, and it's the same thing this year. You've got those two. What's it going to be? Is this the year that Texas or somebody finally jumps up and knocks off Kansas? Well, I'm one of those guys. I lived in Missouri for 4 years, so you got to show me first.
Right.
And so nobody's shown me yet, so I say Kansas until something happens,
What is going on? You and I are agreeing on everything.
Yeah, I don't
know. Oh, man. This is dangerous. I'm the same way. Until someone beats Kansas, I'm going to say Kansas every year. Yeah, because why not? They keep doing it.
Where Tech is going to fit. Did he ask?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Well, I was optimistic on the football team, so I'll be, optimistic with basketball. I'm going to say 6th. All right. That may not sound very optimistic, but the thing is, when you look at everything on paper, and when those basketball annuals start coming out in August and September, you're going to see a lot of people picking Tech to finish dead last.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's what's going to happen. TCU was the doormat last year, but they're like Texas. They've got everybody coming back. So
is that a good thing?
I don't know, but people all generally look at returning players as a good thing. So, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that Tubby has a little bit of a breakthrough and pushes things forward. And if he does finish 6th this year, then I think he's going to be ahead of schedule on the rebuilding.
I honestly don't know because they have so many new faces coming in. Yeah. I think rightfully so, they'll be finished 9th or 10th, or they'll be picked 9th or 10th. So 6, I think, would be, like you said, a very good accomplishment, and would set them up nicely for the next season as well. All right. This is a good question. This is from Tornado Watch, and this is actually pretty difficult for me. With Bethel being released from the team, how does that affect Texas Tech's APR, which was pretty low, very low actually. The second worst in the Big 12 this past year. As far as I know for sure, and I couldn't get anybody from Tech as far as to answer this, but as far as I know, it will affect because it's under the letter of the law. If you accept financial aid, any kind of financial aid, which he did, he was for almost a month. He was on campus, room and board, went to classes. Then it will count against their APR. Him leaving. To the extent, I'm not sure yet. And when I find out, I'll definitely PM you, Tornado Watch, private message you, or I'll just throw it on the board for sure and let you know. But yes, it will affect their APR score. All right, we got our weekly foodie question to wrap up the mailbag. Rawls Landman said, last meal. Apparently, we have a lot of last meals. And to be fair, I asked him to, we've enjoyed this so much. This week, I asked him, please, be sure to send us one. And his question was, last meal has to be Mexican food at a restaurant, no restrictions on location. What restaurant, what dish?
Yeah, a place in a little one-horse town south of Las Cruces, New Mexico, called La Mesa, New Mexico. A restaurant called Chope's. And this is a little dive. I mean,
Those were the best.
Yeah, and it was built, I think, in 1931 to feed the pickers, the guys picking the peppers out in the fields and all this stuff. And yeah, it's been around since about 1931 or so. And some people if you check on the internet, you'll see this, consider this to be the best restaurant in the entire state of New Mexico. And it doesn't look like it on the outside, I tell you that. But it really, really is some kind of good. And I guess I would have a plate of the tamales, which is kind of strange. A lot of people don't have excellent tamales at this place. Killer tamales. And on the side, a green chili cheeseburger, because you got to have some of that green chili from down there. And a big ice cold margarita on the rocks.
All right. Yeah, I have to go back to what I said a couple of weeks ago, that Jesse's Cantina that's been closed down. There's another one in Dallas called Spanish Village. It closed down, I'll say like a decade ago. It was a place my parents used to take, entertain clients. They had great margaritas on the rocks as well. It would usually get rowdy, great queso, but from both of those places is similar. Margaritas on the rocks, has some queso, chips and salsa, of course, but then cheese enchiladas, delicious, with 2 crispy beef tacos on the side, and just eat it all. But that's going to do it for this week. Another great round of questions from y'all. We really appreciate it. Joe, appreciate you joining me once again. Until next week.